So I have the proud pleasure of introducing to you our keynote speaker for our conference. She's actually our neighbor to the north from Arkansas, Vicki Petz Henderson, MD. She serves as our 2017 keynote speaker. She's practiced obstetrics and gynecology for nearly 20 years, and she now serves as Chief Medical Officer in Russellville, Arkansas for St. Mary's. Perpetually living in high gear, Vicki's life was forever changed when she was diagnosed with MG. Instead of riding her bike 100 miles a day, she struggled to walk even 100 feet. But as you will soon learn, however, Vicki is a shining example of a person who figured out how to best her life with MG, bringing perspectives of a physician, a patient, and a woman of faith. Vicki inspires others who thought her website and blog, My Right Side Up Life. In 2016, Vicki launched a walk in Arkansas. She raised more than $15,000 in its first year, and she's organizing an MG support group as well. Again, it is an honor to welcome Vicki Henderson to the stage to be your 2017 keynote speaker.
Mine is always the last one chosen, every single time. You wouldn't choose it either, until you unwrapped it, and then you wouldn't trade it. The game is called Dirty Santa. How many of you have played Dirty Santa? Everybody brings a gift, and everybody gets a number. Now, personally, I understand that the game is called Dirty Santa. So I go around the room, and I look at everyone's gifts to decide which one I'm going to steal. Because I would rather take a gift that I know what it is than take a chance on a gift I don't know. But some of you think it's nice, Santa. So you go over to the tree and you look for the most exquisitely wrapped gift. Well, yeah, that's why mine's always the last one chosen. Because you see, I'm really good at buying gifts, but I am lousy at wrapping them. We used to play a game at my office party where we had a race to see who could wrap a gift the fastest. And we got in teams of 2, and everybody was given some wrapping paper and an empty box and a pair of scissors, a roll of tape, and they sounded the bell, and teams of 2 raced to see who could get the package wrapped the fastest. But there's a catch. You could only use one arm. And so this team member used their right arm, and this one used their left arm, and they got this package done, and it looked better than the gifts I wrap. I don't know what the deal is. I get down on my hands and knees, and I put the box in the center of the paper. Well, maybe not exactly the center. And then when I pull the edges around, they never quite meet. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? You take a piece of duct tape and you fill in because duct tape cures everything. But then you have to tuck the edges on the end, and there's a pointy thing. And that little pointy thing never comes to the center. It's always way off to the side. Well, that makes the underside show, so you have to get the scissors and whack that off and put a big hunk of tape over the end, and there's my gift. Now, sometimes I'll use a bow if I can find one crumpled down under my closet, but the crowning moment is the card. I'll take the wrapping paper, cut a square, fold it in half, and write, "From Vicki." It's really lovely. Now, gift sacks are the best thing that ever happened to the wrapping impaired. I've got 100 of them. You can reuse them forever. The problem is, I reuse the tissue paper. It's 89 cents a package. But I take my gift, I put it in the crumpled paper, stuff it in the bottom of the sack, put a wad on top, and I'm ready to go. Now, this is not what everyone does. Some people, they wrap their gifts in these sacks, and it looks like tulips coming out of a garden. Pink and yellow and green, just boop, 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 boop. Yeah, that's not how my gift looks. So when I go to a shower, it's kind of embarrassing. And I walk in, I scan the room, I make sure no one's looking, and then I get the gift up under my coat. And I try to hide it as I'm walking in, or sometimes I'll just put it in my purse, and if I don't have one, I'll just schlep in like this with it behind my thigh till I can get it tucked in with all the other gifts. Now, you see, once it's unwrapped, I'll take credit for it. Because I give really good gifts, I'm just lousy at wrapping them. Now, these hands are highly skilled. I have delivered 5,000 babies. I can take out your uterus, I can tie up your bladder, and I can tie your tubes, but I can't wrap a gift. What's up with that? Well, I will tell you, there is a reason why I can't wrap a gift. I really don't care. Because I think that gift wrapping is garbage. Because one of two things is going to happen when you give someone a gift. You've got those people that, those people, and you know who you are. You pick at the tape and you lift it up, and you pick at the tape on the other end, you lift it up, and you fold the paper back and forth until it's a nice, neat rectangle that goes in the trash. Or you rip the paper off, make a big, giant paper wad, and it goes in the trash. The difference between the two is 25 seconds. Either way, wrapping paper is trash. You see, what matters is not the wrapping paper. It's the gift that's inside. And so I wonder, could you just start to think of myasthenia gravis as the wrapping paper? I'd like to tell you my own story. If you knew me before 2014, you would have thought I had it all. And I was living the dream. Because I'm telling you, a front row seat to see the wonder of new life compares to nothing. The feel of newborn baby feet and the look in the mother's eyes when she sees them for the first time. I had a career that I absolutely loved. And I was happily married to my best friend in the world, my high school sweetheart, for over 30 years. We raised a couple of beautiful kids in our beautiful life. I was nearly 50 years old, and I was more physically fit than I had ever been. I did an exercise class that made P90X look like a senior citizens class. And I had a passion for riding a little green bicycle. Maybe it was an obsession. I rode nearly 100 miles a week. But I was very physically fit. I thought sleep was for wimps, and I treated rest like a four-letter word. And so in some ways, I feel like my life was out of control. I was a little bit like the Cat in the Hat. Look at me, look at me, look at me now. It's fun to have fun, but you have to know how. I can hold up the cup and the milk and the cakes. I can hold up this fish and the book on the rakes. I can hold the toy ship and a little toy man, and look, with my tail I can fan a red fan. I can fan a red fan as I hop on a ball, but that is not all. Oh no, that is not all. That is what the cat said. And then he fell on his head. You see, my life was out of control in many ways. It's exhausting to have it all. And everyone who loved me told me I needed to slow down. And I knew they were right, but I just didn't know how. And it reminds me of when I was a little girl. I used to go to my grandparents' house. They lived on a corner of River and Market Street. And they kept their house at about 84 degrees, as grandparents are prone to do. And before I went in, I was greeted with a haze of smoke that smelled like cherry pipe tobacco and Winston's mixed together. And across the street from their house was an elementary school that had a playground in the front yard, which I think is a little strange now. And it didn't have a fence around it, which is probably a major insurance violation. But to me, it was just an invitation for a 7-year-old little girl to escape the heat and the smoke. And so I would go to the playground, and my favorite piece of equipment was the merry-go-round. And it's a great big metal disc that goes round, but you have to push it. And I was a tiny little thing. So I'd have to lean all my weight into that metal bar, and I would begin to walk in that dirt path that was worn in a circle around the merry-go-round until it went faster and faster and faster, and I would jump on, and I would grab a hold of that bar, and I loved to see the scenery whir by my vision. I love the feel of wind in my hair and adrenaline in my veins, at least for about 45 seconds, and then I wanted to puke. I'm very prone to motion sickness. But you know what? Merry-go-rounds don't have any brakes. And you can't jump or you'll skin your knees. And that is what the cat said. And then she fell on her head. In May of 2014, I was in the back seat of the car, and I glanced in the rearview mirror, and I saw my right eyebrow perched like a caterpillar above my sunglasses. I thought my sunglasses were crooked, so I took them off and adjusted them, and I put them back on, and I looked in the mirror again, and the caterpillar was still sitting there. I did that several times until I finally had to admit my sunglasses weren't crooked, my face was. And very quickly after that, I was diagnosed with ocular myasthenia gravis. And I was terrified because I was training for a 257-mile bicycle trip across the state of Missouri along what's known as the Katy Trail. And there really isn't good cell phone service out there, and there's no medical service. And I'm a doctor. I knew there was a chance that this disease could spread from my eyes to the rest of my body, and so I was afraid. So I got an index card, and I wrote out a Bible verse that says, "Don't panic, I'll give you strength." Because when I'm faced with any difficult situation, that's what I do. I also continued to ignore some subtle and maybe not so subtle warning signs and continued to train for a 257-mile bicycle ride because that's also what I do. And so on the morning before the trip, I was in the operating room doing a C-section when all of a sudden my hands refused to obey my brain. And the baby was on the warmer crying, and I'm holding instruments in my hand, thinking that they're going to move, and they were just still. And my partner reached across the open abdomen and took the instruments from my hand and finished my case, and I felt like I'd been holding a squat for too long. And so I leaned up against the wall and surrendered to gravity and slid to the floor, and the concrete that seemed to be filling my body from some unseen source found its way down my throat into my chest. And I was struggling for every breath. And one wheelchair ride took me from surgeon in the operating room to patient in the emergency room, and it was a permanent transition for me. And I was laying there on a gurney, and they were getting ready to transport me to a tertiary care center where they had neuromuscular disease specialists. And my daughter came and asked me, "What can I bring you?" And I was trying to conserve all my energy to breathe, and it was hard for me to talk. And I just whispered, "Bring my purse." Because you see, I'm a doctor. I knew I'd need my insurance card. I know how this system works. I also asked her to bring me my index card. And that may sound like a noble thing to you, but I want to give you a little piece of advice. If you are going to be in the hospital for several days and someone asks you what to bring, the answer is always underwear. Thank God for Target. I laid in that bed for 5 days, and they pumped me full of the evil, wicked drug prednisone. And I was limp as a rag doll. I'd never been still in my life. And on the 5th day, my doctor came in and said she thought I was faking. I have faked being well. I had never faked being sick. And the betrayal by my own profession was almost as difficult for me to deal with as the disease itself. And for a season, I thought I would lose my sanity. And in that moment, I lost everything. I lost a career that I loved. Delivering babies never got old for me, not even in the middle of the night. I had enough energy to get on my own nerves. I lost my ability to enjoy all of my active hobbies. I lost my marriage. Oh yeah, and I lost my appearance. I gained 10 pounds in my face, 2 on each collarbone, and when I looked in the mirror, I thought somebody had taken Mrs. Potato Head apart and put all my features back on all wonky. An eyebrow here, eyelid down here, and a flat snarling smile. Anybody seen that reflection in the mirror? You would have thought that I would have been devastated. But you see, myasthenia gravis is not the gift. It's just the wrapping paper. The gifts were inside. And MG has given me a lot of gifts. MG gave me the gift of time. I had never had time. In fact, I wore busyness like it was a badge of honor. I am so busy. I am busy, busy, busy. I'm just so busy. And all of a sudden I had time. I had time to think and read and study and pray and to figure out who I am if I'm not Dr. Henderson. I had time. And I had time to spend with people that I truly care about. My family's here with me today, and I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my parents. In fact, we've had some crazy adventures. Because of the way I was treated and my health was getting so bad, we got on the MGFA website and we found Dr. Burns. And I traveled from Arkansas to Virginia, and my dad drove. And when we got to Nashville and we missed a semi by about 3 inches, I told my mother if I did not know Jesus, I would take the bus. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, that is a little bit of an exaggeration because I don't really think it was 3 inches. It wasn't. We've had some great adventures. We had a trip planned, and because my health was so bad, my sister volunteered to go with us. And I'm so glad she did because my sister literally saved my life. We were in the Memphis airport, and my dad volunteered to push my wheelchair. And in the Memphis airport, the moving sidewalks are on an incline. And I'm in the wheelchair, and we're going down the incline. And all of a sudden, I see my sister, and she's in a full-blown sprint. And my dad had let go of me, and I was careening towards the beer and the barbecue in the Memphis airport. My sister saved my life. We've had some great times. I really think they should make a reality TV show about it. I have my daughter here as well. She used to call me every day about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And she'd say, "Are you busy?" I'd answer the phone, "Hello." Okay, neurologists are really good at staying on time. Have you ever been to the obstetrician's office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? By that time, I'd been to the hospital and delivered 2 or 3 babies. I had the pharmacy on one phone, the ER on the other phone, and 2 hours worth of unhappy patients in the waiting room. Yes, I'm busy. Now I have time to talk to her every day because myasthenia gravis gave me the gift of time. MG also gave me the gift of the true desire of my heart. You see, when I was a little girl, I was saving up my money for something, and I had a little box in my room, and I would put loose change in there and bills, and I was about $30 short for my purchase. And my parents knew this, and the county fair was coming to town, and my parents hate the county fair. And so they offered me a deal. It was a bribe. They knew I was $30 short, and they said, "You know, we were going to spend $30 on you at the fair, and if you choose not to go to the fair, we'll just give you the cash." Well, what they did not know is this was a really good deal for me because I hated the fair too. In fact, my memory of the fair was the year before when my grandfather took me, and he told me that we could ride 3 rides, and I could choose. My grandfather would do anything for me, so we got a purple snow cone, and I chose the tilt-a-whirl. You know, it's that red chair with the hood on it, spins around on a disc, it spins around on a disc, it spins around on a bigger disc. And so we got off the tilt-a-whirl, and we saw the purple snow cones again. It was bad. Told you I was prone to motion sickness. That was my memory of the fair. So I took the $30, and we went to service merchandise. Anybody old enough to remember service merchandise? So you had a catalog, but then they had one of each item on the shelf, and you got a stubby little pencil. This is like IKEA nowadays. And you'd write it on the paper. And so I took it up, emptied all my change on the desk there at the register, and then I waited as my package came in a cardboard box down a conveyor belt. And I took it home, and I opened it up, and inside was a sky blue Smith Corona typewriter. Because you see, all my life, I wanted to write. My mother had an old typing manual, and I taught myself how to keyboard. Okay, I know you millennials have been keyboarding since you're 2, but back then it was odd for a 10-year-old. But I wanted to write, and I wrote my first book when I was 11. It was called Mr. Mouse and Mojay, and I'm not really sure what Mojay was, but he was a possum-like creature that had either a red belly and blue arms or a blue belly and red arms. I don't really remember. But he was going to save all of the forest creatures from some impending doom. And so I took my little book, and I took it to the public library in a manila envelope, and I mailed it off to a publisher that published children's books, because that's what you did back then. And that was in 1975, and I am still waiting to hear from them. It may be in a slush pile somewhere, but I hope not. But I wanted to write. In the 8th grade, I had to write an essay about what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said I wanted to be an author. But somewhere along the way, that just started to sound silly, like a little boy that wants to play in the NFL. So I did the obvious thing, and I went to medical school. And I'm telling you, not 1 minute of my time sitting on that little rolling stool was wasted, because I got to know a woman's deepest heart's desires and fears, and I use that in my writing. I got to know some beautiful women inside and out, and I am sorry, that really is a bad gynecology joke. Bad gynecology joke. But I wanted to write. And now I've written a little book that I self-published on forgiveness. I've written a couple of other books. I have a meeting with a publisher next week. And I'm hoping this one won't wind up in the slush pile. And so I'd like to ask you, have you opened the gifts that MG has given you? Or are you still focused on that ugly wrapping paper? If I were to give you a gift, and I've already told you I give good gifts, but I can't wrap them. But if I were to hand you a gift right now, what would you say?
Thank you.
Thank you. You see, I believe that one of the keys to unwrapping the gifts that we don't like the wrapping paper is to have a heart of gratitude, to say thank you. And I'll tell you, there have been times when despair has absolutely threatened to overwhelm me. You know what I do? I count my blessings. I keep them in a journal and I say them out loud. And I start with the very simple things when I'm having a bad day, like I was born healthy, because many are not. I'm thankful I didn't get MG till I was 50, so I could jump on the trampoline and rollerblade and play kickball with my kids, because I was that mom. There's always something to be thankful for. And you know what? If I didn't have MG, I wouldn't know a single one of you. And that is a real gift that I am thankful for. MG gives gifts. When I first got sick, one of my colleagues developed Lou Gehrig's disease. And he said to me, Vicki, I don't think about what I can't do. I think about what I can do. You know, I thought if he could say that, I could say that. And that's changed my life, because I don't think about what I can't do. I think about what I can do. So I want to ask you, what can you do? What can you do? I have a friend who eats lunch with a little boy whose parents are in jail for drugs once a week. Can you do that? When I first got sick, I got a card every week from an 80-something-year-old lady in another state I'd never even met. Made my day. Can you do that? My sister used to do reading recovery with a second grader. 20 minutes a week she would read to this little girl. Can you do that? Roger used to be a running coach. Now he rides his bike to coach those same people. We can think about what we can do instead of what we can't do. I've got 3 friends, and at least every day, one of them will text me and say, how's your day going? That brightens my life. Can you do that? I'll tell you something, though. When we have chronic illness, the temptation is to give them a litany of everything we're going through. All of our meds and all of our side effects and all of our symptoms. You know what I've started doing? I've started saying, I'm really good. How's your day going? Can you do that? Because you see, the best gifts are not the ones that we receive. The best gifts are the ones that we give. So I want to challenge you. Think of MG as the wrapping paper. Look for the gift inside. Open your gift and pass it on. Thank you.